Hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar on looking for work-life balance. My name is Russell Cummings. Welcome to the day. You should have a copy of the workbook that we prepared for this day. We will also record this webinar and post it on the website so that you've got a permanent record of it, plus any resources and things that we talk about. Today we're talking about work-life balance, and as a business coach I find it's one of the most popular issues for people. It impacts many of us because we're all working in a modern world which is far busier and more complex than it's ever been, and I like to think about it as its velocity and volatility together, so v squared. So much more volatile and complex environment, but the velocity and the speed of change in our businesses and our lives is very rapid. And that just causes a lot more stress on people. I'm also finding that people are working harder and pushing themselves so much harder in business, trying to make ends meet, because the environment is so much more competitive as well. So life balance is really important for both owners and managers of businesses, but also for our employees to make sure they've got great life balance, because at the end of the day it makes them far more productive. So let's just talk about it. So what is work-life balance? So for me it's quite simple. It's ensuring that you have a balanced life, and that's a balance between work on one hand and life on the other hand. Yeah. Now many of us need to work, so we have to work for our families and ourselves. And for many people, this is the fact they have to go to work is seen as compromising the other elements of our life. If we spend a lot of time working, then we often think that we're compromising other things that we do. And you know, it's then about ensuring that work and life are in balance. So let's talk about that for a second. So there's two dimensions here. The first one is work. So for me the work dimension is really important because most of us have to go there. And my experience is that the people who really enjoy their work and are passionate about what they do find it far less stressful, and often have less work life or life balance issues than other people who really don't enjoy their job and that sort of stuff. So if work's a big drudge for you and getting to work is a bit painful for you, then taking the time to to understand what maybe you need a career change or something to make you a bit more passionate about your life. But if not, we then need to think about the life part of it to make sure they're in balance. Now my coach Chris Mason, he often talks about life balance, and said the way he dealt with that was actually building his business so that business and life were meshed together. So Chris has got his family involved in his business. His large proportion of his friends are clients are involved in business with him. He travels the world doing a whole heap of things with his wife Julie, and they seem to have a great life balance. The important thing is it's all about how you feel. So people might look at you and say, well, you've got a great life balance. But if you don't feel you've got a great life balance, then maybe you don't. So it's really important that you're the one that's comfortable with it, because other people telling you you've got a great life balance and you're not believing that, it's not going to help. So one of the things we need to think about then is work. And are you passionate about what you would do? So it's a question I ask everybody. Are you really passionate about this? And the golden question for me here is, if you won the lottery tomorrow, so if you pull $25 million out of Powerball tonight, would you keep doing what you do? Now my answer to that is I probably would. I wouldn't do it at the same level of intensity, but I actually love what I do, and I would keep doing some of this stuff. I'd keep working with people. I'd keep helping them in their businesses to grow their businesses, because that's what I'm passionate about. It's what I like. So the answer for me is yes. So the work part is pretty good. Let's talk about life. So life is the balancing part. So you've got work on one end you have to go to, and it's really about what you do outside of work that determines whether you feel you have any balance in your life. And it's an issue that afflicts lots and lots of people. And my experience is that people who live a full life outside of work, even if they work long hours in a very stressful job, often don't seem to have life balance issues. And that's an interesting observation, but I'm thinking of some friends who have very stressful jobs and do lots of different things, and they seem to have a good life balance, and we don't talk about life balance because they do lots of stuff. Their life outside of work is full, and that full life balances out the amount of time that they spend at work. And it's all relative, it's all personal, and it's all up to you. So how do we just talk about life balance? Let's think about that. So what we've got here is a really simple tool. It's called the Life Balance Wheel. And for me, the Life Balance Wheel has 6 key elements. Now, I don't mind if you actually change any of these headings to be something that's more relevant to you, but these are 6 headings that I found work quite well. The first is family. Okay, so when talking about life balance, family is a really important part of that. We also need to have a social life. We need to have friends and hobbies and all that sort of stuff, and interests outside of family even, and so that fits into that social sphere. Finance, we need to have our personal finances in place. And my experience again is that that if you're having trouble with personal finance, that is often a real challenge for you. The third one is philosophy. So philosophy for me is for some people it's about their religion. For other people it's about being spiritual. For other people it's about their personal philosophy on life. And whatever it is, I found that people with less life balance issues often spend a fair bit of time getting their philosophy right. The mental side of it is not about being a bit mental, it's actually about personal growth and development. So I like to think about there as growing ourselves intellectually and stimulating ourselves, but it's about personal growth and development. And the last one then is health and fitness. And for many people, myself included, that's a key area that we need to focus on. All right. So they're the life balance wheels. I don't mind if you change it to do something else. Now what I want to do is a simple exercise, and we've sort of mocked up one here for you, where you score yourself in each of these areas, and given it's a radial design, you can score yourself in each area. You can then look at the shape of your life balance wheel. So the exercise really is to score your current life balance wheel, do those sort of six areas, and then look, what does it look like, and what are the low points and what are the high points, and if it's out of whack for you, that's fine. What you don't want it to be is a perfect circle necessarily. So it's okay if it's a bit lumpy and everything else, but like this one's a very flat egg, if you like. And what we see is that's right out of balance. So in this one, health and personal finance are low, social and mental are low, and we need to get some of those things back in balance. So we need to spend, a bit of time pulling them out so that the wheel is spinning, but it's not sort of flopping from one to the other. It actually is moving on some sort of more of a circular pattern. So that's how you use this. So you simply score yourself, where are you now? And then you look at it and say, well, what are our top issues? Yeah, and if I asked you to type into the questionnaire what some of those key issues are, what might they be? The typical ones that have popped out for us out of these sort of exercises are normally around health and personal finance. Those sorts of things are normally where we need to put our effort. But for a number of people, it's also around philosophy. So they're the ones that I find are predominant. Personal finance is a major strength, and in the Western environment where we're working too hard and eating poorly and stuff, then health is often an issue for us as well. So that's the life balance wheel. Once you've done your wheel, then my recommendation is that you take a look at it, pull out your top 3 priority areas. So what are the top 3 areas that you need to work on? And for each of those areas, work out what are 3 actions you can take in each area to improve your life balance. So what are 3 things you can do in each of those? Make sure you put a time frame on them when you want to have them done by, and even put somebody else that might hold you accountable for them. Really important that you get some action out of this. It's great to map out your life balance, and then if you don't do anything about it, then your life balance won't change. So what are the top 3 priority areas? What are the 3 actions you can take in each area to improve your life balance? Just take a couple of minutes and write those things into your workbook. Okay, welcome back. So we've been talking a lot about life balance and what you need to do. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the fact that that's really about talking about where are we now, because we haven't really defined the where we want to be with our life balance. So we haven't really talked about our life and what we'd like it to be. Because once we worked out where we want to be, it's much easier to come up with the how. So otherwise we're just fixing questions and fixing problems that might be real issues for us. And a tool that I'm going to share with you, and we'll send you a template out with this on it, but is about your life plan. So the where is about defining where you want to be. And a tool I use is called a 20-year life plan. So use that life plan tool, and I'll just take you through it very quickly now. So what I say to people is, in 20 years' time, I want you to answer these questions. So if you think about where you want to be in 20 years' time, answer these questions for me. Now, if 20 years is too long for you, and I've had clients that said to me that I don't think they'll be alive in 20 years' time, so my older clients, then just use 10 years, okay? If you think that's too much of a stretch for you. But I like 20 years because anything's possible in 20 years. Whereas in 10 years, it's too easy to be locked into, geez, that's not that far away. It's an eon if you want to think about it. But in 20 years' time, what do you want to be? So that's the question you ask yourself. So in 20 years' time, what do I want to be? So what are the roles that I want to have in life in 20 years' time? So for me, there will be things like being a father and possibly a grandfather and a brother, a husband, all that sort of stuff. So they're the sort of primary roles, but they also include things that I want to do in my life, like possibly like being an entrepreneur, being a businessman. All those sort of things are really important. Maybe it's an active community member. For some of you, it might be, involved in community organisations or churches or social organisations, sporting groups, those sorts of things. So what roles do you want to have in 20 years' time? What do you want to be doing in 20 years' time? So in 20 years' time, what do you actually want to be doing? So what are the activities that you want to be involved in? It might be travel, it might be business, it might be, community activities, all those sorts of things. But what are the activities you want to be doing at that point in your life? Really important to also talk about, what do you want to have accomplished at that point in your life? So what are the achievements? Yeah. So what do you want to have achieved at this point? What do you want to have ticked off the list? Yeah. If you have a bucket list, you want to have ticked that off. So what do you want to have accomplished? And then lastly, what do you need to own in order to fund the lifestyle you've mapped out above? So what I tend to think about them assets and investments that you want to have working for you, or you need to own in order to pull off the lifestyle that you're talking about. And I think that's a really important question to ask yourself. Now, mind mapping is a really great tool to use this, and so you can use a mind map to come up with this sort of stuff, and to help you through it. And you'll see in the template that I've sent you, already got some pre-drawn mind maps for you to get on and do this. And then once you've done 20 years, then you sit down and say, righto, if that's where I want to be in 20 years' time, what do I need to be doing in 10 years' time? And ask yourself those same questions. So then you'd say, righto then, if that's what I want to be in 20 years, what do I want to be doing in 10 years' time? So what roles will I have in 10 years' time? So in 10 years' time, I may not want to be a grandfather. It's a little bit out of my control, but that's an example. So what do you want? What other activities do you want to be doing in 10 years' time? What do you need to have accomplished? And importantly, what do you need to own? What sort of investments do you need to have in place in 10 years' time to fund the lifestyle that you want to do? Now, a bit of a tip, if you have a partner or significant other in your life, then my suggestion is that you do this process together. So my wife and I did it with a couple of glasses of wine, and we sat there and said, righto. Now, my recommendation is that you each do your own 20-year life plan, and then you compare them and talk about them and discuss them, because there might be some compromise needed. Now, it's better to understand where the gaps are and what you might want to do about them now than to get there in 20 years' time and go, well, what do you mean you want to go and do that? That was never a part of our plan. And it was never part of your plan, but it was obviously part of their plan. So take the time to do that with your spouse, and then normally I'd say, well, let's come up with a combined 20-year plan, and then let's step it back together. Okay, if that's where we want to be in 20 years' time, where do we need to be in 10 years' time? And we just step through that process. So 20-year life plan, really powerful tool, because it starts to define that sort of now, where, how. It's very much about the where, and then it allows you then to really start saying, okay, how are we going to get there? If that's where we want to be, then what are we going to do? All right, so in summary, work-life balance is defined by the two key dimensions of it. Work, what are you doing at work? How can you be more passionate about it? What can you change in terms of your work so that you feel far more energized about being there? And then the second dimension is life. So what do you do outside of work? Do you have a full life outside of work so that it balances the stresses and the time you put into work because you feel good about what you do outside of it? Now, they need to be in balance to reduce stress and improve relationships, health, productivity, and happiness. I think that goes without saying. I found the 20-year life plan is a great tool to use in order to help plan out your life and get some more context into your work-life balance. So you start understanding where you're heading, set some goals and some of those things. If you want a good book to help you with this, I've got to say this is one of the best books that I've ever read. It's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And he's really good for helping you get some perspective on some of this sort of stuff. Unfortunately, Stephen passed away last year and he'll be sadly missed. A great book, probably the best $20 I've ever spent. I encourage you to go and buy a copy tomorrow. Alright, so if you would like some more information, got heaps of business information for you. You can subscribe to our newsletter either on the SBD business site, which is my website, or on the Horticulture Next Generation website if you are a horticultural business. Make sure on either of those sites that you subscribe to the newsletter. That'll keep you up to date with what's going on. Make sure you review the blog articles and the videos on each of those sites. There's lots of good articles, lots of good videos, all that sort of stuff on it. There are free business diagnostics there which can give you some insights into the problem areas inside your business. So go there and click on those. Review our previous webinars. We record all these webinars and put them up with resources. So there's lots of great topics. They're all about 30 minutes long. I'm not the only speaker, so you don't have to listen to me droning on, but there are plenty of great things there. Lastly, if you really want some help in growing your business and developing your business, then please feel free to give me a call on my mobile number there on the screen, or email me at russell@sbdbusiness.com.au for how we can assist you and your team to grow your business, because having a viable business is one great way to take stress out of your business, and we can start to build life balance into your business model so that you get more life balance. Alright, we're going to leave it there. If there are any questions, please just type them into the questions area. But failing that, we'll clear up for the day. Thank you for your time. I hope you've enjoyed it. We will have another webinar in a few weeks' time, and we will promote that and let you know that via social media and also through our newsletter. Thanks very much for your attention. Talk to you again soon. Bye.